You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where the value given during the show will help you find consistent real estate deals, where we talk with real estate entrepreneurs doing deals month after month. We'll be taking a deep dive into their teams, looking into their marketing strategies and systems and processes to find out how they built a machine that produces consistent deal flow. Today we have Chris. Chris, introduce yourself and also tell us, how did you get into real estate?
Hey, Aaron, thanks for having me. By the way, this is awesome. I think it's super great idea to get started right now. I know that you've been in the trenches for a really long time, so I'm glad that you're able to give back to the community. I feel like there's a lot of people right now struggling, so I'm glad that you're doing this, and I'm glad that I could share or help or be a part of it. So yeah, my name is Chris Vasquez. I'm here in the Phoenix area. I do Phoenix Metro. We also do deals in Las Vegas, Clark County as well. So pretty much all of Arizona and some parts of Nevada is kind of where our business is primarily located. I started in real estate about 4 years ago. I started as a real estate agent, and at the time I had a W-2 job. So, I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I had my 9 to 5 that I would show up at, and then on the side I would help people buy and sell real estate, right? And my first year as a real estate agent, I actually did like 12 transactions, which for a real estate agent, it's not bad. I was at a Fortune 500 company, and I was really progressing. Like, my career was moving. As my career was growing with this company, more responsibilities came. So, I was getting raises. Pretty soon I was making 6 figures. I was doing all the right things, right, to follow the W-2 path for career success, right? So, and for all intents and purposes, I was doing pretty well for myself. I was a single person, didn't have a lot of bills, but as I started progressing in that W-2 career, my real estate career kind of started slowing down. I started doing less deals. I wasn't as involved in many transactions. For me, it was just like the W-2 was kind of just like consuming my life. At that point, it was like a salary thing. So that, they have a little bit of higher expectations for you to perform. And I started noticing some changes within the company, man. I started noticing just restructuring and laying people off, and good people that I worked with just, pretty much getting told, hey, sorry, but we're not going to need you anymore. And being that I was young, I knew that they were kind of looking to go younger. So I kind of felt I felt like I was safe, but I didn't like the idea of somebody being able to tell me like, hey, sorry, we don't need you here anymore. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so that kind of put this mind fret in that I have to be able to create my own. I have to be able to hunt for myself, and I have to be able to make something happen for myself. And so that brought me back to real estate. And I didn't have the time necessary to be like a full-time agent, because when you're an agent, you got to help buyers. So if it's listing calls, you got to go. You're spending hours and hours with buyers, and I was at a 9 to 5, so I didn't really have time for that. However, I was like doing the YouTube University, right? I was watching Pace Morby, Steve Trang. I mean, you and I both know Steve. Like, like for a lot of us, that's where we all got started. I mean, I watched Jerry Norton, Flip to Freedom, Sean Terry, of course, the GOAT. I watched all that stuff, and like I would consume it on my time off from my 9 to 5. And I started realizing like, okay, hey, look, like I can probably do this wholesaling thing because it may not be as time intensive, and maybe I can bring someone on that'll help me out. So, that's kind of how I got started. That was my idea. I know we talk about, getting into our first deal. I don't know if you want me to get into how that kind of came across.
No, for sure. Well, it sounds like you're already doing deals. You're already in real estate, which is fantastic. Real estate agents, because we're going to have agents on this show as well. I mean, that's a huge impact. I mean, again, we're talking about the real estate block, where we talk all things real estate. Now, when you said YouTube University, I mean, what made you go from YouTube University to going? Because when we met at the Disruptors course with Steve Trang, and I think that was I literally just quit my job. You were, I think, just getting your ball rolling, and it was a great place to start. But we had to pay to be there, right? to be in that room.
Mhm.
Did you go anywhere doing? Well, first off, did you get in trouble going down YouTube University at your 9 to 5?
No. So like, I would do it. It was actually, it was pretty laid back. I had my meetings that I had to be at, and you got to do that. But in between, they can't. What are you gonna? You're listening to something on your headphones. You have something playing in the background. I mean, they can't really. And after hours, I would watch it as well. So like, I got a lot of the concepts and foundation behind that. But when we met at the Disruptors, we had already started doing deals. So I think I was in maybe like about 8 months, 6 to 8 months that we were actively doing deals already. So we had already kind of kicked off the first deal, which, I think for a lot of people, that's that proof of concept, right? That you're like, wow, can we make this happen, right? Is this viable? Can we actually make a living doing this? And you watch all the videos, you see other people doing it, but you don't know if it's actually viable or if it's a possibility for you until you actually get in there and put a deal together. I knew that I knew how to put deals together just because I was a real estate agent. By that time, I had probably done like 30 or 40 transactions as a real estate agent just the 2 years before that. So like, I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to negotiate. So like, basic stuff I knew. Like, I wasn't afraid to put myself out there. Like, all that stuff I knew, but the details of, how to structure a wholesale deal, much different. And,
Right.
The framework, I didn't have a sales process. I didn't have any of that stuff back then. And so just kind of going down the YouTube University thing. I mean, I religiously watched Real Estate Disruptors, and I would watch everybody got on there, and I started to meet these guys. I would go to these meetups, and I'm like, wow, like, this is possible. These guys are making some serious money. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it by myself. And during that time, my brother was living in California, and my brother, Rick, is actually my business partner, but he was living in California. And he was telling me like, hey, I'm thinking about moving back to AZ. This California is getting too expensive out here. I want to try something else. And it was kind of perfect timing because I was like, hey, I've been doing this wholesaling thing. I've been trying to do this wholesaling thing. Come to my house, come to Arizona, come stay with me at my place. And then, I have some money for my W-2. We can set up some light marketing, right? Just light marketing, texting. Maybe at that point in time, we were just texting. Like, we weren't even cold calling, nothing. So like, we can set up like this texting through batch,
And you've already done a deal now, right?
Oh, so let's talk about that. Let's rewind.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember our first deal. Where did that come from?
So my first deal was actually zero marketing. It was just Craigslist. It was a Craigslist for sale by owner, and it was in the Biltmore area here in Arizona. So it's a very like coveted area. And I went over there and I looked. The house was a brick built home, really nice, good neighborhood, but it was just completely outdated. And the seller had kicked out some tenants, so they kind of trashed the place. And he was kind of doing some work himself. So some of it was started, some of it was not. It was pretty mishmashy. But he's like, hey, like, you're a young guy. I'm an older guy. I don't really have time to take on something like this. I mean, do you think that you'd be interested? Like, he was selling me on buying the property. And I was like, wow, like, is this how it always is? Because my real estate agent instincts kicked in, and I was like, hey, well, this roof is messed up and this is messed up, and just kind of pointing things out that I knew an end buyer would be looking at. And I'm like, this is not going to work, but ultimately we were able to negotiate a price. I think he was looking for around, these houses at the time were going for around $400,000, $450,000, I think. And at the time he sold it to me for $250,000.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, $250,000 and it's yours. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So I actually had to reach out to a title company because I did not have a contract. I only had real estate agent contracts.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't know that you could use this, pretty much the same way to assign double close. Like, I didn't even know any of that. So I was like, okay, well, I need to find a contract. We had agreed on the price, but I didn't even have a contract with me that day. So I had his email, I had his phone number, I had everything. I told him, I was like, hey, look, I'll come back tomorrow with a contract. We'll meet here and we'll sign. And he's like, okay, cool. So I called around, I reached out to a title company. I found a title company in Scottsdale that's like, yeah, hey, we do wholesale transactions. And I just told the escrow officer, I was completely transparent. I said, hey, look, this is my first wholesale transaction. I'm a real estate agent, but I haven't done a lot of wholesale transactions. I'm going to kind of rely on you to make sure I'm not missing anything. Can you help me? And she was so nice, so sweet. She's like, yeah, I'll help you. Like, I was like, would you happen to have a contract, a wholesale contract? Because I don't have one. And she's like, yeah, here, let me. So she found one that other wholesalers were using in town, and she just gave me the contract. She had her,
Nice.
she had her marketing assistant mark it up, clear it out. And then I knew how to fill out contracts based on my real estate agent knowledge. So we filled out that contract. And then I went back. I got it signed. Once I got it signed, it was like, okay, well, now I got to find a buyer. But during that same time, I was going to meetups, and I had met another real estate agent that told me, you know, she has buyers that are actively looking. And she had a buyer that was looking in that. It's a very coveted area. So, you know, I knew a lot of people would be interested in it, but I reached out to her and she said, hey, yeah, I have a client. And I told her, I was like, you know what, like, I have this property and I have it for $275. So I put, you know, and she's like, is this a wholesale transaction? And I was like, yes, you know, it's a wholesale transaction. No, you know, there's not gonna be any commissions. She said, do you think that you can build in a $5,000 fee for me on this 275? And I was like, absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely, we can do that. Yeah. So, and that's how it worked. You know, I signed it to her at 270. She assigned it to her end buyer at 275. And 14 days later, I had a $20,000 check. It was a quick close. And
nice.
Seller was ecstatic. Seller was like, oh my gosh, you got it done way faster than any real estate agent. They got all their money. Buyer was ecstatic. He got an amazing property. I think he still owns it to this day. He turned it into an Airbnb. So it's a wonderful,
nice,
great area. The agent, I'm still connected with her. She was like, that was the first transaction I ever did. And I did it with her. And we still like see each other. She's progressed a lot in her real estate career. I've progressed a lot in my real estate career. We always run into each other. And it's always like, hey, for her, it was just another transaction. But for me, it was like my first deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that $20,000 was like life-changing for me, because it was like, oh, wow, like this is how it is. You know, I didn't even have any marketing spend. You know, at that point, I was just, you know, calling FSBOs on Craigslist. But I wanted to try it. I was watching a lot of the videos. I really wanted it. So I was going after it. I got rejected a bunch of times. And finally, one of these FSBOs was like, yeah, come meet me at the property. So, you know, I didn't know what I was going to buy it for. I didn't know, you know, what I could sell it at. I had no idea of none of that. But I just took some action. It wasn't perfect, but, you know, it turned into a $20,000 profit. So I was like, wow, like, what if I really focus in, spend some money on some marketing, and how many more of these opportunities can I generate?
Exactly. And that goes right into, goes right into my next point. And I know you were kind of heading there with you and your brother. And I think that's something we all struggle with and you and I have both been at that step in our journey. I mean, to be honest, we're both past that, but where you struggle to do a couple deal, you know, deal here, deal there, 2 months let go by, you do another deal. Right now we're able to do consistent deal flow. Yeah. But how did you break that doing a deal here and there to consistent deal flow month after month?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was just investing in myself and getting a little bit more of that education, because the next thing after I got my first deal, that was my proof of concept to show my brother, like, it's like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I'll quit my job if you show me a $20,000 check right now. Right. You know, I told him, hey, look, it was in 14 days, you know, and this is in 2018. So the beginning of 2018. So 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now. So this is, 4.5 years ago. And at that time, I mean, the market wasn't crazy. So houses weren't selling over the weekend. On the retail side, houses were taking 30, 40 days, to sell, kind of like what we're seeing now. Right. I started in that market where houses would take a little longer, but I told them, I was like, this is the fastest I've ever gotten paid in real estate ever. And, I made a couple calls. I think I oversold it, made it seem a little too easy, because after that, once we got started, I used that $20,000 to bankroll our investment. So we pretty much started investing in marketing. We figured out how to use batch. So we used batch. We had prop stream. We used batch to skip trace. And then we used, I forget which platform we used. I think it was Roar or something we used to text back then. Those were like the few of the only, I don't think batch was as built out as it is now, but it was like prop stream, batch to skip trace. And then we use another little texting platform to send, the messages. And that's how we got started, and no cold callers or anything. So we kind of got started with that. But from the time that we got started, my brother was consistently marketing. So he was marketing, he would take the calls, he would negotiate. I always underwrote everything. Okay. So during this time, I'm at my 9-to-5 job, I'm working. he's at home. So we're doing a whole home office thing. He's at home sending the messages, talking to the sellers, trying to find motivation, right? We were using Sean Terry's script that we pulled offline and one of the free ones that they were giving. So that's what we were using. We hadn't invested we haven't made a serious investment in, systems or sales processes at all at that point. And, for 3 months, nothing. 3 months, we had zero, nothing. I mean, there was opportunities, but we just could not convert them. And at that time, my brother was like, "Hey, dude, I don't know how much of this I can do. I need money. Like, we need to figure something out. Like,
right.
This thing's it's not working the way it's supposed to." And, I kind of convinced him to stay in. I was like, "Let's stay in it. Let's just keep marketing. Things are going to happen." And then, shortly after we had that conversation, boom, we acquired a really interesting lead that came in, de-stressed property, not too far from my neighborhood. So it was really close to us. And we both went over there to check it out. Seller out of town, absentee, tenants trashed the place, just a complete mess, and very similar situation. He's like, "Hey, I like the rapport." My brother was the one that was the acquisition manager on that. He's like, "I like the rapport that I built with this guy. I trust this guy." At this point, we got a little better. We got a contract, we kind of figured some of those things out. And then he's like, "I trust this guy. He's been delivering on everything that he said he's going to be doing. I'm going to sell you guys this house." And so we locked it up and we put a long due diligence period on it and we put it out there and we found a buyer for it for $19,000. So we put $19,000 on that second contract. And that at that point in time, for us, $19,000 was like, whew.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the marketing spend had already kind of, we were bleeding through the marketing spend. My brother, he wasn't making any income at the time. So it was like, and I was like, I was kind of bankrolling things from my W-2. And I was like, can we do this? Is this viable? And when that happened, when we got our deal together, that's when the momentum really hit, So then after that, shortly after that, we actually got another deal and another deal, all from the same marketing campaigns that we had already gone. And they weren't completely structured yet. And so I knew that we were lacking that structure. And that's when I decided to sign up for pretty much real estate disruptors. And that's where we met, right? This was in 2019.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So in 2019, we met at Real Estate Disruptors, and Steve's course really gave us the game plan for, hey, this is how your system should look. This is how you're, one of the biggest things was like, just, this is how you're supposed to run this business. Okay. Because we had no idea. We knew that you do marketing, you sell, you dispo, and that's it. But his sharing his organizational chart and showing how organized they were compared to how we were doing things was just super eye-opening. And so what we did is, we used that investment that we made into the Real Estate Disruptors course. And as soon as we got done, we got back and we implemented as much of that stuff as we could, right? We delegated, hey, you handle this, I handle this. We're hiring, we're bringing on some cold callers, you manage them, I manage this, right? So we kind of set very clear expectations as to how it's supposed to happen. And then we started investing a little bit more in marketing. We started doing some research as to what marketing channels we wanted to go with. We knew texting was working. So we began to continue texting, just escalated the volume at which we were doing it at. Then at that point, we brought on cold calling. We found some cold calling companies out in Panama, bilingual cold callers. That was big for us. There's a lot of bilingual people here. So we found them, started off with just a few cold callers. And then we started noting the lead volume start coming in more and more and more. And, we also use the sales training from Steve, right? So like a lot of the sales process that we use now, it's the same training. We just molded it a little bit, to what works for us. But like, we didn't know that calls should flow a certain way, right? Like we had no idea. And once we implemented that, it really gave us a foundation because we knew how everything should flow, right? We can map it out completely, and you can map it out, make videos and show other people how you do it. And I think that was the biggest thing, right? Because once we started bringing on virtual assistants, we were showing like, hey, so how do you do that? Well, we would map out what we do. So now they can see like, oh, this is how it works. This is how it's supposed to happen. These are how the calls are supposed to go. These are the questions. When someone says this, you say this, right? Once we got that, really, that gave us a lot of momentum. And that's when we started seeing consistent. So I would say the way we got consistent deal flow is by consistent marketing and showing up every day. So this was, I think a lot of people they treat it like, oh yeah, I'll log on today, I'll do a little bit today, and I hope something. Well, for us, it was like, we're committed, we're doing this, we made this investment, this is what we're doing every day. And so I got to give a lot of credit to my brother, because during that time I'm still in my 9 to 5. I'm still kind of doing that. And so he was consistently showing up. I was consistently underwriting deals. I was consistently building that buyer's list. And he was consistently, talking to sellers, putting deals together, making offers, right? And so I would say, in order to get consistent, you got to get consistent with your marketing. You got to get consistent with your sales. And then you got to show up every day.
No, that's perfect, right? It's literally an everyday thing. I feel like every time I walk up to the office, not knowing what's going to happen today, because you're telling me, Chris, you don't just send out a couple text messages 1 week and then wait 2 more weeks, right, to send out more. No, you send out SMS campaigns every day. You send out direct mail once a week. Get a system and dialed in, right? You have cold callers calling Monday through Friday, if not on the weekends, right? No, that's fantastic.
Yep, 100%. Now our operation looks much different now than it did back then. We've definitely added a lot more things.
Yeah.
But I would say the foundation stays the same, right? Show up every day, take the calls, talk to the sellers, pay for the marketing, make sure it's going out, make sure it's performing. And then, we work with our sales team to make sure that, they're saying the right things, they're making the right offers. And so that's how it is. And, I think a lot of times people make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to. People want it to be perfect. And I kind of fought with that myself as well. I'm like, oh, it's not perfect. Our texting campaign needs to be like this, needs to be. And the reality is that it doesn't really need to be perfect. You just need to be doing it. And you're going to find out that as you continue doing it, you're going to find ways to improve it. And then after maybe 6 months, 6 months, a year from when you started to then, you're going to notice the improvement, because you just start layering on top of it, on top of it, on top of it. And to me, I think that's kind of what's helped the most.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Chris, right now, what does your team look like right now? I mean, you've come a long way. I've been watching you on social media, crushing it. And I would love to kind of brag about you a little bit, but I'm going to have you do that. What does your team look like now?
Yeah. So right now, we have 3 lead managers. We have 2 virtual, 1 in-house. We have 1 acquisitions person. And then we have my partner, my brother, he handles pretty much the sales side of things. We both kind of oversee marketing together. So him and I, we both oversee the marketing campaigns, making sure that things are working the way they're supposed to. That's really kind of our focus, is getting a lot more dialed in and a lot more organized, because there's still levels to the marketing, right? Like you can get real dialed in with it, and that's kind of where we want to go. I pretty much oversee just like day-to-day, operation of the entire business. My brother primarily focuses on the sales side, so he works really closely with all the salespeople. And then I pretty much just kind of oversee the rest of it. We have a project manager as well for our flips. So if I break it down, we have 5 cold callers. We actually kind of just scaled that down. We were up to 10, and we scaled that down a little bit. So we just kept the top 5. We have the 3 lead managers, and we have the acquisition manager, my brother, and myself. And then we also have a transaction coordinator. So total, and then our project manager that works with us, kind of ad hoc as we have projects like flips. So I would say our team is like 9 to 10 people. And awesome. Half of them are virtual.
There you go. Lean and mean. And so let me ask you this, you were doing retail transactions, you were doing wholesale transactions, but I'm also seeing you do now luxury flips. So what kind of deals are you taking down now? And I mean, what does your deals look like right now, month to month?
Yeah. So at this point we're getting a little bit more into the luxury side. When I started, back, kind of the beginning of this story was we were doing a lot of wholesaling, and we started noticing like, hey, like these people, once we got better at what we were doing, we kind of figured out what was going on. A lot of the deals that we wholesaled, we tracked, okay, what did it sell at when they got done with it? And I just realized, wow, like there's a huge spread here, and we need to figure out this flipping thing. So I actually learned and signed up for another course. So this is another investment that I made, and it was with my buddy Ryan Pineda out in Las Vegas. He has a future flipper course. And I think, if you want to learn how to flip a house, it's really one of the best courses out there to learn how to flip a house. Like, it may not have the same sales process stuff that I got from Steve, it may not be super wholesaling focused, but it is very like step by step how to flip a house. Right. So that got us started. We started with entry level. We were nervous at first, right? We did a lot of entry level houses. I think in 2021, we had done 30 just like entry level. So the highest price was like, yeah, the highest price was like, I think the highest price we did was like 450. So in Phoenix Metro, you know, median home price is about 450. So like we hadn't passed that threshold yet of the median home price. But, you know, within that future flipper community, I met some of the biggest luxury flippers in Vegas, the Boakley brothers. And, you know, we kind of hit it off. Landon actually went to Arizona State. I went to Arizona State. So we kind of bonded off some of those similarities and things like that. And so what ended up happening was he's like, hey, look, they kind of approached me and they said, hey, you know, we see what you're doing in Phoenix. We see you're doing a lot of entry level stuff. Have you considered maybe jumping into some luxury? It's a lot of the same stuff that you're already doing. It's just a little bit more higher price points and a little bit better quality finishes. And, you know, at first I'm nervous because you're taking on some bigger risk. Right. And I'm very conservative when it comes to my flips. Like, you know, one of the things that we have is that we buy, but we buy deep. We don't like to buy thin. I've seen a lot of bad things happen to other people, and I bought some thin deals in the past, and you know, every time I do that, I always come back. I'm like, all right, we're not doing that anymore. So if we're buying deep, and they know that, and they said, hey, look, let's partner up. Let's do one together so you can build up that confidence and you can continue doing more of these. And then if it works, maybe we can continue our relationship and keep doing stuff in Scottsdale together.
Oh, nice.
And so, you know, that's how it started. So I was like, okay, I'm game. So we started looking for deals. We're looking for deals. You know, a lot of the times we would just wholesale, or we wouldn't even go after luxury sometimes, just because there was that, like, you know, I had that limiting belief of, you know, I don't know if there's going to be enough buyers for it. Right. But once you get in there, you realize, oh, people with money, there's a lot of them out there and they're not afraid to spend it. And so kind of, you know, that's a limiting belief that I had. So once we got in there, you know, we found the right deal. It was in a great zip code here, 85254. They call it the magic zip code. It's kind of Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, very, very popular area here. And we found this deal, and, you know, I brought it back to them. I said, hey guys, look, you know, this is this deal. We need to get it wrapped up here in the next 48. You know, I need to make a decision with this within the next 48 hours. Do you guys want to partner up on this and make something happen? And, you know, they came out, they looked at the deal, they liked it, and dude, we got it going. So I would say the way I got started in luxury is by partnering with guys that were already doing luxury at a high level. I think at this time they had already flipped maybe 100, 200 luxury homes in Las Vegas. And so, you know, for them to do one in Scottsdale with me was not really that big of a deal, right? But for me, it was big because, you know, I'm used to Home Depot specials, right? You know, we're picking stuff up here at Home Depot, we're, you know, Amazon, all these little, you know, and my crew is familiar with that and they can get that going pretty quick, right? When you're going on the luxury side, the design is a lot more important, right? Finishes and materials is a lot more important. You can't just go pick up a Home Depot range, right, and just put it into a, you know, $1.5 million house. So, you know, these are all things that I had to learn. And yeah, the way I learned it is by partnering up with these guys. And we're definitely looking at more luxury stuff, especially rolling into 2023. But, you know, one of the things that we're really want to make sure we do is that we're buying them right. And based on what we're seeing, we're going to roll probably in December. We're going to go really aggressive to try to pick something, maybe one or two more projects up on the luxury side. And the reason for that is because we know that like a lot of the luxury demand just goes down in December. Like nobody's buying anything, you know, it's the holidays. Nobody wants to move, you know. And so
does it really go down? Because I listened to their podcast and it was fantastic. I think they even gave you a shout out on it.
Yeah.
So because don't a lot of like guys who could afford those luxury houses try to get like tax write-offs?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And so we noticed that like the buyer demand typically goes down in the holidays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be some purchases, but those guys that are buying, they're buying for tax purposes. They're buying right. A lot of these guys are paying cash. So, and we want to be those guys. We want to pick stuff up December. We want to pick stuff up November. We want to pick stuff up at the last 2 months so that we can, you know, kind of be set up for the spring. Because I have a feeling that here at Scottsdale, we're going to see some adjustments. We're already baking in these adjustments, but I have a feeling that, Scottsdale is one of the areas that's definitely going to hold up. And, based on our last deal, the buyer that we had, they came in with cash. So, the higher price point you go, the more you don't really think about interest rates because they came in at $1.4 million cash.
Wow.
And so, you're not going to see that in the entry level price points. Right. Yeah. So I guess the moral of that story was if you buy if you put a good product in a good area out there and you price it right, even in what's going on right now in the economy and the market, it's still going to move because we sold that thing in 2 weeks.
There you go, man. There you go. Yeah, I saw that, and I think you hold some meetups there. That was awesome.
Yeah.
2 questions. 1, where did you find what kind of marketing did you find that last deal? And then
Mhm.
2, what kind of marketing are you doing now? I know you said cold calling, but what's your favorite stream of marketing right now?
Our favorite stream of marketing is PPC. A good pay-per-click lead, man,
Oh yeah.
and I would also throw direct mail up there. I would say
Okay.
those two are my favorite. I mean, if they're calling you off a postcard, they want to sell, and likeliness of that house being in bad shape is pretty high. So, PPC, it's pretty much somebody raising their hand saying, "Hey,
I
come and
love you
get
some
it."
PPC.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are my 2 favorite. I feel like with the cold calling, it's just a little nurturing. So it's a very rare that you close one the same day you talk to them, right? It's usually going to take
Mhm.
5, 6 touch points before you can actually maybe close that person or even turn it into a contract, right?
Right.
But with PPC, man, first meeting, you normally getting that deal done. It's either a yes or no, and a lot of times we're walking away with yeses.
Yep.
The cost is a lot higher, so that's you kind of, especially here in Phoenix Metro. I mean, PPC cost is pretty high. But direct mail as well. One of my favorite things about direct mail is, just this week we experienced it. We're sending campaigns, bi-weekly. So you send we sprinkle some direct mail. We have targeted lists and we send them every 2 weeks. So they're getting hit. And we actually got a deal from something that we had sent 5 months ago. So it was a mailer that we
nice.
had sent from 5, and we can track it. So we go back and say, hey, we sent this 5 months ago, and they held on to it for 5 months to say, hey, I want to sell before the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're running into right now is hey, I want to sell before the end of the year. With that particular deal in Scottsdale, that was a referral from an agent. And so that's why I'm pretty active on social media because, it kind of opens up your outreach a little bit more. It opens up your sphere a bit more, and you never know, who may have a deal for you. So I was just putting kind of the word out there with agents. Hey, I'm looking for something in Scottsdale, the specific area, and one of the agents that follows me says like, hey, I have, it's actually my house. So he was an owner agent.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, I have a house here that I want to sell, same situation, right? Great area, great bones, but the tenants kind of trash the place. And they're like, I want to cash out. I'm not sure, what's going to happen. And I just, I'm done. Okay, cool. So that came from an agent relationship. And after that relationship, that agent continues sending me more deals. They do a lot of deals in the Scottsdale area. And one of the things that I recommend, especially on the luxury side, if you're looking to be flipping luxury real estate, a lot of those agents, they farm those areas. So like this agent, he farmed his neighborhood. So, he got us that house, and we're working potentially on getting another one in the same area, very similar to that one.
Nice.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how on the luxury side, that's how we do that. But yeah, what was the other part of the question you said?
No, that's exactly, that was the second question is how did you find that deal? Let me ask you this, you're doing well. We see the market going on, but just generally before we get to that question, what's your number one struggle right now in your business?
So my number one struggle right now is the marketing. And that's because I think we talked about this a little bit before the call, but we kind of revamped our marketing. We had to go back and figure out like, hey, we can't just throw money at everything now. And I think that's what we were doing is you're throwing money at everything to solve the problem. And it doesn't work when you do it that way. So we kind of scaled back. So we kind of trimmed some of the fat, got rid of some of the stuff that wasn't working. Like one of the things that we were having issues with was our cold calling leads we just saw a big drop off, like just completely, we had a certain amount of leads that would come in, and then out of nowhere, we just started seeing them change, right? And so we're trying to figure out what it is. We know we got a lot of click carrier blocking issues. Now we have to test a different dialer, and so like all that stuff. I think that was a little bit of a challenge at first. Then also like we were working with a lot of PPC companies, but man, it was difficult to find consistency with them. A lot of the times, they sell you really well. So they're like, hey, it's going to be great. And then, when you're not seeing performance, they always say, hey, well, it's more spend. You got to spend more. And, you do the more spend and you're still not seeing it. And it kind of seems like you're just digging yourself a bit of a hole. So one of the things that we did is we brought PPC in-house. So we recently hired someone that's going to be, working for us. They're going to be like, part-time employee, and all they're going to do is just run the PPC. We feel like it's just digital marketing is just a foundational piece of any business. So if we can figure out how to run it in-house, and that's what we're in the process of now, is like figuring out, what's going to work, what's not going to work, trying different things. So if we can lock that in-house, and then we can apply that maybe to different business verticals if we decide to, right? But we just think it's a super foundational skill that every business should have. So, we brought that in-house now. The texting, we're still having some challenges with that. It's very, people intensive. You need somebody to reply, and you can automate some things, but, you still need to be on top of it. But, I think that, dialing it all in, putting it all in and wrapping it up in a nice bow and having it come back to me on a weekly dashboard that I can see, that's what we're working through right now. Because I feel like when you have consistent marketing and you can go back and see historical returns on your marketing, it gives you a lot more confidence in spending more on the marketing, right? And if you don't have that, it makes making business decisions a lot more difficult, right? Because now you don't have that certainty. Like, hey, if you don't know your return on your investment per marketing channel, it doesn't make you want to spend more, right? And ultimately, we're in the sales and marketing business. So if we're not marketing at a high level, we're not going to perform at a high level, and we're not going to do a lot of deals, right? And that's ultimately what it boils down to. So for us, that's our big thing, is like we need to become better marketers. That's 100% what we're focusing on rolling into 2020. Well, finishing 2022 and 2023 is we need to become a lot better marketers. Our sales abilities, we're kind of naturals at that. So we can close people, we can negotiate like that. We have, Steve Trang's framework. We do our role plays, all that stuff that, we do pretty well at. But, becoming better marketers is going to be huge for us rolling into 2023.
No, that's awesome. And we actually did a lot of that as well. Like you just said, trim the fat. You said you had 10 cold callers, now you're down to 5. As a matter of fact, we had around 10 to 15 as well. And we've cut it all just because we didn't see the return, and we use all that. And that was the thing we saw when the market changed, is that we needed to react fast. But yeah, that's actually what we've done. We doubled down on PPC, and we've been seeing a fantastic return. That goes into my next question. What are your strategies to get through this recession and coming out on the other side even stronger?
Yeah. So 2 strategies. One of them for me, I have a little pet project that I'm putting together. And one of the strategies I think is going to allow us to survive and thrive potentially is we're looking at doing lease options. So, and we're starting it with one of our properties that we picked it up. It was a flip that we were supposed to make, 40, 50,000 on. Market changed. It's in a rural area. And, it was like, do we let it go, break even? Do we sell it at a loss? No, let's just hold on to it. Let's make it a part of the portfolio. But with the higher interest rates, it was difficult for it to cash flow at regular market rents. And so that was kind of a difficult challenge. But, I got into this lease option I got into this whirlwind of lease options, just watching a lot of videos and kind of learning a little bit more about them. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing on we're going to be taking on capital partners to buy houses at a really nice discount. So we're going to be structuring these deals so that, our capital partners, they are 50-50 with us on these houses that we pick up. So a lot of these are going to be off market, things that we can just clean up and put a tenant in pretty quick. And then we're going to advertise them as lease options. So rent to own opportunities. We're going to be taking a option fee up front. So a percentage of, the purchase price. And then we're going to have an option to purchase, 3, 5, 7 years, depending on, how we structure that. But we're building in a sale and exit 5-7 years down the road.
Right.
And this exit is maybe 120, 130% of what we're buying the property for. So, an example here, like for this one, we picked this property up for $200,000. We put about 40,000 into it, and our exit price on this option is going to be 350, but it's going to be 3 years down the road. We're taking a 2% option fee up front, so that gives us a little bit of the capital back. And then market rents in that area are around $1,750, and we're actually at $1,975 for this because the house is completely remodeled. It looks amazing. And man, we're getting so many applicants coming in, and we're noticing that, wow, like maybe in this high interest rate environment, we can just do a little bit of delayed gratification where we're not making a bunch of profit up front right now, but we're getting cash flow, we're building our portfolio, and then 5 to 7 years from now, we'll have major exits, like big 80K, 90K, profits just hitting, every other month if we build them out correctly. So that's one of the strategies that we're definitely looking into. And
now you say you're looking into. Have you done any yet?
Oh, we have one right now that we're actively doing it with right
Awesome.
now. And so right now I have one out there on the market that we've been taking calls on. So the way that I've structured it is, if somebody's interested, the first thing we do is we have like a little consultation with them, and we just say, hey, this is how the program works. I want to learn a little bit about you, your needs, because we want to make sure we pick the right person, because ultimately we want to set people up for success. Like, we believe in home ownership, and so we want to set people up for success, and we want the people to buy it, and we want them to buy it at our price, right? Because we would be profitable, but we're setting them up to sell, and we're setting them up to put them in a good position to be able to purchase this property. And so, it's going to take it takes a little bit longer than placing a tenant, because, not everyone has the option fee that you would need. But, we're getting really good inquiries on it. And so to me, we're about a week and a half into this thing where we've been kind of taking in these applications. And so it's very promising to me. And it's very eye-opening to see like how many people are open to renting to own and how many people are curious about it. And so to me, it's kind of been a new little business. It's still real estate related, and it's adjacent to wholesaling and flipping, what we're already doing. But it's a strategy that I think, given, interest rates being where they're at, it allows us to get a little bit of a premium for our properties and be able to, just delay that profit for, 3 to 5 years down the road.
There you go. Are you just marketing and everything in the Phoenix area?
Yeah. So it's property specific. So wherever the property is, we put it up. So for example, this one is in Pinal County. And so that's a little bit more of a rural area. But I have another one that's going to be coming up here in January that's in Metro Phoenix. And it's in a very populated area. And I anticipate that I'm going to get just bombarded with people interested in getting this one, getting into this one, because it's just in a very popular neighborhood. And so, those are the two areas that we're doing it with right now. And this is for, the reason we're doing this is because we do purchase rentals, right? We're acquiring rentals, but we're having a hard time having them cash flow with today's interest rates. It's very difficult. Even if you're buying them at a really good price, it's still pretty thin. You know what I mean? Right. And so the reason we're doing that is so we're saying, we're able to push a premium rent because we're offering a premium service. You're locked in on your 3 years from now. You don't have to worry about where you're going to be living for the next 5 years. You've already locked it in. Now you just got to do your part of, repairing your credit, fixing, saving up some money for your down payment, or, budgeting a little bit better to kind of structure yourself to be in a good position to buy 5 years down the road.
There you go. Let me ask you this, Chris. What would you tell your best friend, and that, something that you've read or listened to that just inspired you, that you would love to share with our audience?
If it's real estate related,
it doesn't have to be just anything that's just inspired you. Cause in real estate and being an entrepreneur, right, it's all mindset, and we're always finding ways to build and strengthen our mindset. So what has inspired you recently?
Well, I think I wouldn't say recently, but one of the things that, always comes to mind for me is this artist. His name's Nipsey Hussle. He was a rapper. He created his whole thing around his whole marketing campaign around the marathon continues. And it's just a metaphor for the marathon of life. So, a lot of times I think we want to get somewhere so fast that we don't enjoy the journey. Right. So, part of the marathon continues is, it's going to take you time to get where you want to get to. I think a lot of us, especially, with social media, we want instant success. You see people, they go viral and they're selling courses, and you comparing yourself to them, and like that, you don't know how much time they put in to get to that point, right? Like, it's like it's a marathon, and so that's the way I look at it. A lot of times, I used to beat myself up. I'm like, man, I need to be better. I need to. I wish I was doing this much deal. I need to scale to this much, and like, why are we not doing this? And like, my buddies over here, they're doing this much, and I got a buddy over here killing it in this. And, so to me, it was really about like, hey, run your race, right? Run your race, focus on what's in front of you, and the rest will take care of it itself. Right. And so, that was huge for me. Now I don't really compare myself to other people. I compare myself to myself, like, how we do compared to last year. I know that I need to grow a lot, especially like just on the leadership side of things. That's the biggest. We're working, like I said, we're working on marketing, but on the leadership side, that's one of the focuses that I'm personally taking on, because if you want to build anything great, it's going to take a great leader. And to be if you're a great leader, then you can build a great team, but if you're not a great leader, it's going to tell you your team's probably not going to be that great either. So, so those are some of the things that I'm looking at. But yeah, man, the marathon continues. That's kind of my motto. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you consistently put in the work, you'll start seeing good things happen.
I love that. That inspires me. The marathon continues because we're in the same boat. I think all of us entrepreneurs are in the same boat. And what's the quote? Comparison is a thief of joy, right? That's something I always got to tell myself. And I don't know if your brother does it, but my partner, which is my wife, is always telling me to stop comparing yourself to you're doing good. I'm always saying, like, these guys are doing this, we should be doing better, and we're both sitting pretty, you know what I mean? We're living our dream life. And that's kind of why I started this podcast as well, because we're all, especially this recession has, I think, humbled a lot of us. And it's just the beginning, right? I mean, we're looking at probably maybe the whole next year and then coming out in 2024. But the thing is, this is why I picked you and other people to be on this podcast, because you guys are obsessed with bettering yourself every single day by strengthening yourself. Because one thing I think was what Trang said is that too many people are worried about, this is not the time to just make a crap ton of money, which we will, but it's the time to really focus on getting through. And I want us to make sure we give advice and have each other's backs to, through this. And that goes into my next question. What is one myth about real estate that you would like to debunk?
Yeah. The big one is that you need a lot of money to be in real estate. I kind of, just my whole story here, like,
luxury flip guy.
Look, my luxury flip, man. I didn't even use that much of my own money for that. I partnered with my brother, the Boakley brothers out in Vegas. I mean, they've been doing it for a while. So the biggest thing is, like, if you learn how to structure deals, right, and you know how to find discounted real estate, right? So, like, our thing, my brother and I, our focus is like, okay, what's our focus? What's our thing? Our thing is finding discounted real estate deals. That's our thing. That's what we do. Finding and structuring, right? So, whether we source them ourselves or they come from someone else, we can help structure. Like, that's really our focus, is finding discounted real estate. And so if you're able to do something like that, the capital will be there, right? Because there's so many people that want to invest in real estate. Primarily for majority of all of our flips that we did last year, we use none of our own money or very little of our own money. We use hard money lenders and we use private capital lenders, just private individuals, private investors that would just lend us the money directly. I've been able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars just off social media.
Wow.
So, I mean, in just the beginning of this year, I made a post to say, hey, I got a deal coming up. Somebody wants to fund it. And somebody that I just would have never expected, they just reached out to me and said, hey, I have X amount of money here. It's just sitting in my account. I've been, watching Grant Cardone. I've been watching this. I've been watching that. I wanted to get in, but, like, I have this job and I just don't have the time, and I was like, hey, look, it's perfect. You should focus on what you're good at, which is your 9 to 5, and let me focus on what I'm good at, which is finding real estate, finding discounted real estate, and then selling it, for a profit, right? Or holding it as a rental, right? Or, turning it into something that can cash flow. And it was a perfect connection, from that person. They introduced me to a couple more people, and they introduced you to more people. And once people find out what you got going on, the word spreads pretty quick that you're able to offer a return. I mean, you start having people line up to give you money, which is a really, really cool place. At a certain time, June and July, I remember I didn't have enough deals for people to tell me, hey, I want to fund this one. Hey, I want to fund that. Hey, I have this. And, I didn't have the deal flow to make them. I didn't have the deal flow or the manpower to make them all happen. Right. And so, that there's that, but there's tons of money out there. I mean, there's so much capital out here. And I think now we're going to notice it here rolling into 2023. I mean, I think the real capital is going to come out and play. I think, a lot of the big money is going to come out. I think, JP Morgan Chase, they announced that they have $1 billion set aside to buy single family real estate.
Wow. There you go.
We're gonna start noticing a lot of the big players come out and start picking things up for really good prices. I don't necessarily, and maybe I can ask you. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that we're gonna see like a 2008 crash. I would say 10% off of what we're at right now, and maybe a decrease over year of 7 to 10%. I think at least in Phoenix Metro is what we're thinking. I don't know what you're seeing on that side, but.
No, that's a great question. Well, first off, so is Chase and the banks? Do you think they're going to be the new Open Door where we're going to sell our deals to?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because they normally, when they operate, they're going to bring on an agent. So they're going to have an agent represent them to buy these deals. So first thing, it's really hard to buy at scale when you're buying off market, right? Like, so for them, the MLS is just a marketplace for them to just make aggressive offers and pick stuff up. But I think there is going to be a really good opportunity to work. I think if anything, maybe they partner with some of these companies that are already buying, because I know that Open Door recently announced that they had slowed down some of their flipping, but they also announced that they're going to be doing like a exclusive Open Door offer program, which pretty much means that they're going to be entering the wholesaling game. And I think what their plan is that they're going to, because they generate all these leads, right? They generate all these leads. And I think eventually what they'll do is be the connection from the lead to the actual end buyer without, actually purchasing it themselves.
Right.
I don't know exactly how they're going to do that, but I do think that, that's one of the ways that they'll end up doing it. I think also there's going to be just portfolio sales. So, some fund is going to sell to another fund, and there's going to be big tranches like that. But, in Phoenix Metro, we know what they're looking for. They want newer homes, so we have an idea of what they're going to be looking for. So I think it's a matter of time before they come back. And I do think that once they come back, that is the signal, right? That hey, we gotten pretty close to the bottom here, guys. Let's get in.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think it's gonna be another 2008, but I mean, talking about coming from a couple of young guys, right? I don't I don't think we've been through all these markets. No, we've been in a couple of years, but we also are surrounding ourselves with people who have been through those times, right? So I don't think it's going to be done in 2008. I think it's like a market correction. People are still buying and selling like crazy. I mean, we just assigned like 6 deals last week. So I mean, things are moving. People are buying, and we're starting to get heavily in novations. We're seeing, people still buying on the market like crazy. So it's just a slowdown, right? You just got to get better.
You know what? And I think part of it too is like we might be in the worst of it right now, or maybe in the next few months, we might be in the January, February might be the worst of it, and we'll see where it goes. But it's all going to be based on what the Federal Reserve does with those interest rates, right? I mean, what the terminal rate is going to be. If they say like, hey, 5% is where we're going to go, then I think at that point everybody kind of knows. The lenders will know, like, all right, this is where we can build our rates in at, and this is what we can offer. But even as long as we continue seeing the inflation go down, like with November's data that's going to be coming up here soon, like if we see it come down a bit, I think that's also going to be a good signal. And I know that the Federal Reserve is looking for like a soft landing. I feel like some places, like the stock market, is getting crushed, right? It's getting crushed, having its up and downs. I feel like real estate, I mean, I don't know over there, but here, we're seeing like a 1.5% decrease. So pretty much the height of everything here was in May and June of 2022. And so from that point, we're seeing, 1.5, 1.5% decrease from May and June price points. Year over year, I think we're still going to see about 7% appreciation this year in 2022 in Phoenix Metro. So, for all intents and purposes, I mean, like your things are still happening. It's just a lot less transactions. And, when there's a lot less transactions, a lot less contracts out there, it means we got to get a lot better to get those.
Right. And you being in Phoenix, I think we got hit the hardest. California, Phoenix, the West Coast. And when I went to my mastermind last a couple months ago, everybody was feeling it, but people that were still doing, I would say volume of deals were definitely Midwest and East Coast, right? People were still buying. It was definitely that like below 250 mark. It's just those high priced areas that were, I think, got hit harder than the others. But
yeah, we kind of on the coast, we kind of get both sides of it, right? When the appreciation is happening, we get fast appreciation, which
get some nice rips. Yeah.
Make some really nice. I mean, I can't really tell you how many, 6-figure deals we did at the beginning of this year.
Wow.
Those are, we're not doing that many of those anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
A lot less profit, but like, 6-figure deals were happening every week almost. And you're like, wow, this is, and I guess maybe that should have been a sign of saying like, I don't know, are we really that good? Or,
right.
Is the market helping? And I guess a little bit of both, right? But yeah, I mean, we get the appreciation, but we also, when things start to cool off, we also feel it here first. And
for sure,
I think what's a little bit promising about that is that if we're feeling it first and we can weather it and make it through, then when things come back or just recover we can find some footing. Cause I think that's what people are looking for. They're just trying to find some footing of, where's the normal going to be now? What's normal now? Because I think right now, because of the interest rate hikes, nobody knows kind of where are they going to stop? You know what I mean? Where are they going to stop? Where's it going to end? And without having that info, it's tough to make a solid decision. But one of the things that you can do is, to hedge against that is just buy deep. The deeper you can get these deals, the more you can kind of insulate yourself from risk.
Right. Well, Chris, hey, I couldn't thank you so much. I know your busy schedule. You got a team to lead. And again, I thank you so much for spending time with us to add some value. We saw a blink into your life and into your business in this show. What I'm going to tell people is to go blow up Chris, hit him up on social media. He's given so much value on his social media, his Instagram, his TikTok, and all that. So Chris, before we let you go, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah. So on social media, you can find me at my handle here at Chris Vasquez Show. That's going to be on TikTok, Instagram, also on YouTube. I drop a weekly video, just, either it's about my flips or my thoughts on the economy, business, things like that. And yeah, I mean, the best way to get in touch with me, I'm probably most active on Instagram. So send me a DM. I'd love to connect. If I can help you in any way, let me know. And if there's anything anyone ever needs in Arizona, hit us up. We're your connect for that.
Chris is an amazing go-giver, and he's still buying property. So send him your deals. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much again for being on the Real Estate Block podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.